Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our first panel discussion of our festival weekend. My name is Erica, and I'm one of the organizers of this year's Dance Pop Festival. And this is my colleague, Kate. Um, so today, our panel discussion is in partnership with Toronto Community Benefit Network, Mercier Community House, and Provocation's Ideas Festival. I'm going to pass it to Kate, and she's going to do the line up.
Good morning, everyone. While we are, of course, gathered remotely online, it's important to acknowledge that Toronto is located on the site of what has been human activity since time immemorial. It is the traditional territories of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and most recently the Mississaugas of the First Nations. Ontario is covered by 46 treaties and other agreements and is home to many Indigenous nations across Turtle Island, including the Inuit and the Métis peoples. These treaties and other agreements, including the Kishkutwan Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, are agreements to peaceably share and care for the land and its resources. Other Indigenous nations, Europeans, and newcomers were invited into this covenant in the spirit of respect, peace, and friendship. We are mindful of broken covenants and we strive to make this right with the land and with people. We are all treaty people. Many of us have come here as settlers, immigrants, newcomers in this generation or generations past. We recognize the many nations of Indigenous people who presently live on this land, those who have spent time here, and the ancestors on this land known as Turtle Island. We recognize and support the United Nations declarations on the rights of Indigenous peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action.
Thank you, Kate. Now, I would like to introduce our moderator, Kumsa Baker. He is the Director of Campaigns at the Toronto Community Benefits Network, a 120-member community labor coalition whose goal is to negotiate community benefits agreements as part of the new urban infrastructure and development projects in Toronto. Kumsa also volunteers at various community, youth, and sports initiatives and serves on the board of the Neighborhood Legal Services in Toronto. Thank you, Kumsa, for joining us today.
Thank you, Erica, and thank you, Kate. It's a pleasure to be here this morning with you all and to moderate a really excellent panel for the next hour and a half or so. My name is Kumsa. I'm with an organization called the Toronto Community Benefits Network, and we're a community labor coalition. And today we're going to be talking more about what's happening in Lawrence Heights, and also we have some really great panelists, which will also kind of share more about the changes that they're experiencing in their own neighborhoods. And so we have four awesome panelists: Khairia Ahmed from the Lawrence Heights community, Ahmed Abdi, who is from the Eglinton West, York Southwestern community, and John Minio, who is both a carpenter and a next-gen builder and is currently working on the Finch West LRT, and Jamal Myers, who is a resident in Scarborough and a community leader, who will all be sharing more about some of the different changes that are happening in their community and how they're experiencing it, but also how the community is organizing to ensure that the actual residents and those who are most impacted by these changes can benefit from these investments. And so without further ado, I will invite all of the panelists to come on screen and we'll have a great discussion. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you.
Awesome. And so just to set a little bit of the context for this discussion today, Lawrence Heights is a community in between. And so over the last few years, Lawrence Heights has undergone a large revitalization project. For those who don't know, Lawrence Heights is a neighborhood that's located in North York. And so over the full revitalization, there'll be over 100 acres that is going to be transformed from a full Toronto community housing community into a mixed income community. And that revitalization will include the replacement of over 1,200 Toronto community housing units, with also building new housing along with parks, retail spaces, roads connecting Lawrence Heights and the surrounding community. Um, uh, the Lawrence Heights in 2020 um, started the Lawrence Heights Revitalization Coalition, which is mostly a resident-led group that is based in Lawrence Heights. And one of the goals is for this coalition is to really start off with a series of discussions on experiences navigating through revitalization in the community. Like I mentioned, revitalization has started already and kind of near the midway point, almost finishing phases one. And so, as the City of Toronto and Toronto Community Housing start to develop plans for the next phases, how can we really take a lot of the learnings, what's worked well, what hasn't really worked well, and how could we really ensure that the tenants within the community, residents, are really at the forefront of the process? And so, we have here with us today Khairia, who's a resident leader and someone who is taking on a lot of that leadership role within the Lawrence Heights community. And so, welcome, Khairia.
Hi, thank you, Kumsa. Hi, everyone.
Awesome. And so, I'd love for you to get us started today in terms of, can you share a little bit more about yourself and your community, and also maybe share a little bit more about, what is the change that's happening within your neighborhood in Lawrence Heights?
Sure. I've been doing a lot of community work. I'm a community leader. I've been advocating for my community for over 10 years on different areas of work. But our biggest thing for the past, since revitalization start, is the revite and how tenants like ourselves can have more ownership to what's happening in our community, right? As Kumsa said, there's only going to be 1,208 units being put in to replace the TCHC units. But other than that, we're going to have at least 3,000 more units coming in, which is going to be more on the private aspect of it, right? So, in that sense, us as a community, we're going to be losing that voice of what we want, right? If we're having almost 3,000 new people coming in, that voice for TCHC tenants is no longer going to be there because we're going to be overpowered by the private sector and the private tenants who come in, and they get to say more of what they want it to be done within that community, right? That's one. I feel for us, as in like for us residents, we're very united, as you can say. I'm also part of the Lawrence Heights Coalition, which also with Kumsa, who they're supporting us with that. So with that, we're advocating for a lot of different areas of work where it could be like affordable home ownership for residents to have. Um, Also, the bottom up approach, right? For us to be at tables to have those conversations, for us to make those decisions as well, not for other people to make decisions for us when we're the ones who are living there on an everyday basis, right? So that's another thing. Having more work and economic opportunities. We see that those aspect of things are happening now, but to be honest, it's always about, let's say, less than 20% of our community got employment or just got a little bit of employment. That's it. There was nothing permanent for them. So these are the things that we're looking at for residents in our community to have more permanent job opportunities within the revitalization with developers and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're trying to do and advocate for those things as well. Other things as in the green space and our environmental aspect of it, having more garden spaces, ways that we can grow our own foods to make it more sustainable for us and everything like that. Um, what else? Safety. Safety is always a big issue for us. We've been in the news for a long time when it comes to gun violence, but how can we change things up? And that's what we're trying to do with doing such things like a neighborhood watch, right? So these are the different areas of work that, as a community members and as residents, are coming together to do these things slowly but surely, right? We just want to make it more an impact, and that way we get more community members involved, more residents to take ownership of their own community. I hope that answers your question, Kamsa.
That that was excellent. Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of a better picture about yourself as well as your community. I'm always amazed by the strength and like you mentioned, the unity of residents coming together to take on different initiatives, but also making sure that your voices are centered within this revitalization process. So thank you for your leadership, and yeah, I really hope to kind of continue to see that over the next while.
Okay, thank you.
Um, you mentioned a really excellent point, that I think the next two speakers can kind of maybe share a little bit more about around work opportunities and good jobs within your local community. You mentioned that limited opportunities for permanent work or good jobs within your local community. And so I know the next speaker, Ahmed Abdi, is a leader within the York Southwestern community and is a big advocate for getting youth into good jobs, as well as an advocate for community benefits within your neighborhood. And so, Ahmed, do you want to maybe go next and share a little bit more about yourself and your experiences around community benefits and how you're really involved in your neighborhood?
Yes, Kumsa. As Kumsa said, my name is Ahmed Abdi. I am with the local Carpenters Union, living on the Eglinton, West York Southwestern area. I got involved with the union through the community benefits, Toronto Community Benefits Network, and since I've been with the union, I have understood that these projects could actually be a good thing for the community, and if we get the benefits out of it, because there's a lot of high-paying jobs within the trades that are associated with these projects. For example, we have the Eglinton LRT in our area, also the West Park Rehab Center. These are millions, if not billions, of dollars worth of man hours when it comes to the trades and work for the community. And we have a lot of youth in all of our communities in the neighborhoods of the city that need jobs, that are available to do these jobs, and that could benefit the community. So what I discovered is we need some type of advocacy in order to for the youth to get these jobs, because like Korea was saying, if more people are going to move in after these projects are done, these infrastructure projects with the subway and the hospitals and all of that. And when more people move in, the underprivileged people that already live there are going to lose their voice, is going to be gentrified, and people are going to lose their homes, and either not going to be able to avoid the rent. And to offset that, if the youth get these jobs, then the community can, and the people that live in the community benefit from these jobs. The community can stay in these neighborhoods after they become better, not when they become better, they just push us away. So, from what I learned through the community benefits and working at the on these projects, both the Eglinton LRT subway station and the West Park Rehab Center, it's a great opportunity for our community to move forward and stay within our communities, not need to be pushed out because we can't afford to stay there anymore. Yeah, basically, if we want to benefit from these jobs that have been and these projects that are in our community, we have to get involved and we have to get these jobs. Otherwise we'll be gentrified and pushed away. So I think this is a double-edged sword. If we need activism and we need people to push these companies in the city in order for the youth to be able to get these jobs and not um, not have our community associated with gun violence and gangs and all of that. Because we have a lot of youth and we have a lot of willing bodies that need the job and that could benefit from the job and build our city together. I hope that answered your questions.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much, Ahmed, and thank you for your continued advocacy and so supporting youth, to follow the journey that you have through the Carpenters Union into a good job in the construction industry. Next is John. John, welcome. I know you're also working, in the Finch West area with the Finch West LRT project. Can you share a little bit more about your experience? What your community is going through, also about, how you're really involved in around community benefits in your community.
Oh, thank you, Kumsa. I started working with the Finch West LRT in 2020 or October, and the reason that brought me about to working on the project, I work with the Mosaic company, which is the main contractor for the project. So how I got to work with them is that there was one of the pieces in the contract agreement was that they needed to employ a number of people from within the community where the project was being undertaken. So that directly forces Mosaic to work with subcontractors to make sure we have guys employed from within the community where the project is, and that's really the reason why I got involved in the project. That is a direct benefit as to, like what Abdi is saying. um, Other than activism, if we can get it to a policy level and make sure whichever project is being undertaken in any community, that there is an agreement with the main contractor that a percentage of the guys who are going to be giving the man hours on that project have to be from the very community where the project is being built. That makes sure that there is direct involvement with the community where the project is. Those people are the very people whose lives are going to be impacted by the project. And so it's important for them to just be part of the whole process of making sure that as their community transforms, they are also part of that transformation. Coming from the Jane Finch area, right now, of course, because of the construction and all that, we have a lot of traffic problems and all that. But then when you're part of the project, when you are somebody from the community and you're on the project, it's easier for you to understand. And you know that, it may be a challenge for a while, but after, say, a number of years, this is going to be good because somebody coming from Humber College is going to travel to Finch West Station without a problem. They don't have to be, their travel time is going to be cut down because of the project. The lives of the people who work on the project from within the community, that's huge transformation. Specifically for me, that made sure throughout the pandemic I had employment, and not just employment but steady employment, without having to worry about there's a pandemic, I may be laid off, because the project was running all the way through. Having said that, within my community as well, there are other things that have been going on. We have like the repairs of parking garages at the TCHC buildings on Sentinel Road, and that is really nice because when mostly the people who are living within TCHC, it would be known it's low income families, and just coming to the level of say the city thinking, hey, these guys need a better parking garage, um, is really nice because that shows you thinking about the people. That shows the people will see that, for especially for the ones who are working, the taxes would work for them. And then other than the project and such other things as the revitalization of the TCHC buildings, um, it has been a neighborhood that has been having so many challenges in terms of gang violence. And even in the city of Toronto, if you ask anyone where you're coming from, and they tell you Jane Finch, right there and then they will start telling you, thinking or telling you how you're living in unsafe neighborhood. This is my home, so where am I going to run to? I'd rather stay and be part of the building of the community, be part of the advocacy for the opportunities for young people, because these opportunities are the ones that are going to be helping us young people transform our lives from the lives that people otherwise have thought we live, to another side of life of us having something that can take care of our families.
Wow, so powerful, John. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think, it give us a little bit of a better picture of what's happening in the Finch West LRT, and it's so amazing to hear your experiences, being able to work through the pandemic and, have a good, steady job, within your local community. I think it's really, really powerful to hear that. Thank you for sharing. Next, last but not least, Jamal. So I think we've heard from a couple of speakers, who are experiencing change in their neighborhood, through LRT projects that are kind of midway or kind of ending. I know for you in Scarborough, you're just at the beginning stages of a transformational LRT project, and also a lot of growth within Scarborough. So it's really great to have you here with us today, and really want to hear a little bit more about what are some of the changes that you're experiencing in Scarborough, and also please feel free to share more about yourself and some of the work that you're involved in your community.
Thanks, Kumsa, and thanks for having me. So my name is Jamal Myers. I was born and raised in Scarborough. I grew up in Toronto Community Housing in Scarborough, first at Birchmount and Eglinton, and then at Cataraqui Crescent. I was raised by a single mom who raised me and my brother. And I grew up in Toronto back in the 80s and 90s when even if you were poor, you still had a lot of opportunity in the city because the city was relatively still affordable. We had access to good transit. We had access to good schools. And I was able to take advantage of those opportunities to do well for myself. And eventually I went to law school. And I worked in New York, actually, for 4.5 years as a corporate lawyer before I finally decided that, I wanted to come home and help create opportunities back home for people like me that I could see really needed them. So I moved back to Toronto, actually Scarborough, back in February 2018. And I moved in with my grandma, who was a widow at the time. And we lived right at 401 in Nielsen. And, one day I was taking her to her doctor's and we had to cross the street. And she couldn't cross it because there was no crosswalk. And for me, it was something so simple. I mean, my grandmother's lived in this house since 1969. And I've crossed this street thousands of times. And I've never noticed that there was no crosswalk until I saw it through someone else's eyes. And that made me realize sort of how we all experience our city so differently from one another, and why it's so important that we have these diverse voices and lived experiences at the decision-making table. So from that one experience, that sort of spawned my activism into transit organizing. After New York, I had taken a sabbatical and took a year off. And I became a transit activist with a group called Scarborough Transit Action. And we were actually organizing for better transit in Scarborough, particularly that the 7-stop LRT would be built instead of the Scarborough subway. From that, my activism sort of spawned into different areas, including affordable housing, local economic development, and health. Currently, I am a senior lawyer at TD Bank, and I work in environmental and social governance issues. And I'm also, that includes climate change, helping to grow our economy inclusively, and making sure that the bank's diversity and inclusion initiatives are actually doing what they're supposed to do. But back to the activism, we were very conscious of the fact that Scarborough transit riders in particular had been let down so many times. We've had so many promises of so many different ideas of, what's supposed to be good for Scarborough, that we never actually have people from Scarborough who take transit making those decisions. So fast forward 4 years, and currently we're in this situation where, thankfully something is being built, the Scarborough subway, to replace the Scarborough RT. Which will shut down in 2023. Currently, there isn't a well thought out plan as to what to do with the replacement bus shuttle service that will have to take the approximately 30,000 people a day who take the RT to work on a weekday. The TTC is still working that out. The Scarborough subway will not be built for another 10 years. So we're actually, we have the longest commutes in the city, and they are set to get even longer next year once the RT shuts down. So, this obviously is not a great situation, but, from this came an opportunity. So when the province decided that they were going to build the subway, Toronto had raised approximately $1.25 billion for its share of the subway. And with that money now not needed to build the subway, we were able to organize and assemble a coalition of the community who really pushed to make sure that that money was then allocated to building the Eglinton East LRT, which is Scarborough's other priority project. And that project is important because it would bring rapid transit to 2 post-secondary campuses, the University of Toronto Scarborough and Centennial College Morningside, and to Malvern. And we were successful in February 2021. So that was a big win for our community. Currently, what we're trying to do is I'm a director of the Scarborough Business Association, and we are trying to work with Toronto Community Benefits Network, among other organizations, also the East Scarborough Storefront, to ensure that people from our community are given jobs to build the Scarborough subway, and not just construction jobs, administrative jobs, financial jobs, any types of jobs that are created. And we're also looking for social procurement opportunities so that we can ensure that some of the goods and services that are used from the Scarborough subway, that are used to build some of the Scarborough subway, come from local businesses. And that's really what we've been organizing and pushing for. And, we've made some good headway so far, but now we're really trying to push it to, like John said, get these policies implemented into writing. However, one of the challenges of building the Scarborough subway instead of the original 7-stop LRT is that now we're also trying to build affordable housing in transit-oriented communities. One of the benefits of building the LRT over the subway was that there was more space. So there would be more land that would be open up for development so that you could build sort of these compact rapid transit communities. Unfortunately, with the Scarborough subway, there's less land to build it on. So the towers to build affordable housing have to be higher because of the restricted land. This has caused a lot of community opposition. A lot of these subways are located in very suburban areas, and homeowners generally don't like 30, 40, 25-story towers going up in their neighborhoods. And especially they don't like it when they find out that a significant portion of these homes will be given to people that are in need of housing. And this housing is for people making between $21,000 to $50,000 a year, but it still elicits a lot of opposition. So that's some of the work that we've been doing, trying to get these homes built and trying to ensure that there's this community benefits agreement in place for building the Scarborough subway. And this whole experience has really helped motivate me to decide to throw my hat in the ring and run for city council to make sure that our experiences and our people are really represented at the decision-making table.
That's so amazing, Jamal. Thank you so much for sharing, and it's so great to hear, many of the different advocacy initiatives that you're involved in, and working alongside the residents of your community. Thank you for sharing. I guess we're gonna segue back to Khairia. I think there were some good themes that were brought up by Jamal around affordable housing, promises, that are made that sometimes are not fulfilled. I know, as a resident leader in Lawrence Heights, you're very involved with the, phases one, with revitalization. And can you maybe share a little bit more about, your experiences as a leader in the community through phases one? What were some of the promises that were made to the community? Have they been fulfilled yet? Have you been able to learn from, I guess, that whole experiences? What could you share with others, I guess, in this discussion today in terms of, that experience as residents kind of going through that first phases of revitalization, and maybe with that you can talk about the SDP and maybe some of the community, the need for community spaces that have come up a lot.
Sure, no worries. So for us, when it comes to the revitalization, especially in phase one, there were a lot of promises that were made. Some were fulfilled, but not most of them. The good thing out of it that we were able to get through the developers through that was scholarships for the residents in our community when they wanted to go back to school or to do some type of training. It doesn't matter if you were a youth or an adult. You go through a process, you apply for it, and they gave out at least 15 scholarship each year for the past 4 years. So that was a benefit where it gave residents that opportunity to go back to school. They were given a scholarship of $3,000 towards that, which was good. We were also given promises as in home ownership, but when it comes to, as Jamal was talking about, when it comes to home ownership and stuff like that, out of our whole community, especially in phase one, only less than 5 people actually had that opportunity of home ownership, which is sad, because of the amount of money that you had to put down as a down payment and all that process of that, where a lot of residents didn't have that type of money to put down as a down payment and everything like that. And there was a lot of criteria that you had to follow for you to have that. So and I think the education piece also would have came great with that before um, letting residents know that you have that opportunity, even if for residents to plan themselves. We never got that opportunity as well. So from there, now we've actually partnered up with a nonprofit organization who are also supporting us with how we can advocate for home ownership for us residents. We're looking for something more than not just 10% of the residents. We're looking for something more than at least to 50% of the community if they're interested in home ownership. How would that look like? And what do we as residents need to do to get that into our community? So that way we can do that with our next developers and everything like that, with the support and help of Toronto Benefit Network. That's which is great. They're supporting us with that through our Lawrence Heights coalition group. We're really advocating for a lot of that. So, and a lot of the residents are all on board. They're willing to do their part. But now it's just having those conversations, sitting down, as most of you are saying, that we need to have something concrete, written, promised, so that way we can take that forward and do that. When it comes to spaces in our community, as tenants, as residents of the community, we have no access to that, right? And even if they are there, it takes a long time. We have to navigate through a lot of like ropes, hoops, and all that before we can even get that spaces, right? For myself, I would say for our community right now, I've been advocating for food security, for us to get like a space for food hub space where we can support the residents, where we can have education pieces, as in learn to grow our own food to make it more sustainable and all that. And we're having a hard time just doing that. For the past, since COVID started, I've been advocating for space. Until today, I would tell you, it's disappointing. We're not able to get space. And imagine we're going through revitalization, and through TCHC, we have a lot of acre of land in our communities. There are a lot of spaces. We as residents, as tenants, we can't get space, which is really sad. And so that's the thing with us. And for us residents, it's very discouraging, because we're trying our best to do a lot of things for our community, but there's always some type of red tape that we can't get there, right? But it doesn't stop us. Kumsa has worked with us. He knows that we really work hard, and no matter if there's any type of red tape, we try to figure out, navigate through it. Sometimes it won't happen today, tomorrow, but eventually it would happen. So
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kyria. And just a quick plug for those who want to learn more about the Lawrence Heights community. There is going to be a Jane's Walk today at 3 p.m. And so feel free to join that walk, and you'll learn more about the community, and hear more about some of the resident leaders, who are really taking ownership of their community, and really trying to make sure that with the next phases of revitalization, that these important priorities are included as part of that process. Next, I'll go back to Ahmed and John. I know, John, you mentioned earlier, your community is undergoing a lot of change, and a lot of construction happening. So increased traffic, other things like that. And so maybe, John, yeah, can you share a bit more about, what other experiences that you've seen around transit development in your community? Are there from day to day, like how, like, has your life really changed much? Like, what has that experience been? We hear a lot about Eglinton project, where it's had a lot of impact on businesses in the community, especially in areas like Little Jamaica. And so, like, I guess for a resident in the community, can you kind of share a bit more of that? What has that experience been like? Have you noticed those type of changes, or other type of changes?
Thank you, Kunsa. There are changes, of course. The changes are bittersweet. So when there was like free flow of traffic before the transit project, probably the shops were more accessible. It's hard when you have to make a turn and you need to get something from a shop and then the turn is closed because of construction. So it's both good and bad, and bad in the sense of reduced accessibility to maybe people's favorite shops or stores, and good in the sense that the people working on the project, most of them are going to buy stuff from the shops where they are working. So that again is a good change. Other than that, we the Finterest LRT comes with uh, services like um, accessibility for people, like the crosswalks and all that. They've been nicely been factored into the project, such that what we've been experiencing before, you're supposed to cross a road like one of us has shared, but then there is no crosswalk. So that was very clear that the project had to really be clear about it, that there were clear crosswalks for pedestrians. And not just that, but there's going to be a clear there's going to be clear bicycle lanes as well. So that is really nice. Not throughout the whole project, at some sections, which is really nice. It's better than nothing. We know we are in a problem, in a situation where um, the drivers on the roads are not sharing the roads with the pedestrians and the cyclists. So that has been resulting in lots of accidents, and the project having factored that in is really nice. The changes are enormous. The amounts are, when you look at economic empowerment, or the factors that would propel a community to grow economically, transport is one of them. And so once you reduce the amount of time, then the amount of time somebody uses to move from point A to point B, it means they have more time to concentrate on other things they would otherwise use for, say, economic gain. If somebody is traveling from the Jen Finch area to the west around Hamburg, maybe they were using 40 minutes before, now they can use 20 minutes. They have an extra 20 minutes either to get a good rest or to do some more extra work, which means more income. So for the moment, the challenges could seem to be limiting, in the sense that maybe the travel time is more because of some closed exits and reduced lanes. But in the long term, the change is going to be positive, because the community itself, we are the ones who are going to benefit from this. We may not see it right now, and this has helped me really to grow, because one of the things people will ask you, uh, they see you, probably somebody gets to know you're working on that project. The first question is, hey, are you guys even going to be done? So when somebody asks you that, and they're asking you from the point of them not being part of the active construction of the project, yet you have been there, you see how things are, and you know you are making progress every day, you are in a position of telling them, yes, there could be challenges now, but yes, we are making progress. We are not where we were yesterday. Tomorrow is different, because you have been there, you are experiencing it, you are seeing the growth. When you pour concrete yesterday, you know you'll not pour that concrete again. You have grown, you have moved. So at some point, things are going to look much better. Like, for my example, the first project I did on the Finch West LRT was the maintenance and storage facility at Jane Finch, just west of Yorkgate Mall. That is almost finished right now, and the project where I'm working right now is the last station at Humber College. That is also the work we are supposed to do there, is almost going to be done in the next 3-4 months, and then we leave the rest to the other trades to finish up, waterproofing, whatever, electricity, and all that stuff. Because I do concrete formwork, I'm a carpenter, so we do much of the skeleton of the construction.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, John. I know that's probably Toronto's number one joke, is when the LRT projects will be completed. So thank you for sharing more on that. I think we may have dropped Ahmed, and so I'll jump to Jamal. And yeah, like Jamal, I was hoping that maybe you can share a little bit more about looking forward, as your community is changing. I guess, like, maybe to share, what are some of those key priorities for your community moving forward, I think there's lots of, like you mentioned, lots of growth in Scarborough coming from the new subway investment. And so, yeah, just like, what is the hopes and aspirations for your community? Like, what would be ideal for you to see, Scarborough look like as they experience that growth?
So I would say first it would be to take the lessons learned from the Eglinton Crosstown. So the Eglinton Crosstown also went into Scarborough through the Golden Mile to Kennedy Station. And there were a lot of lessons learned from that project in terms of the damage that it did to the local business community. Many businesses before COVID were suffering. Metrolinx did not listen to them when they said customers couldn't access their restaurants. Metrolinx did not compensate them when Metrolinx's property damaged either their drive-ins or took up the sidewalk or caused damage to customers' vehicles, for example. And this was an ongoing complaint that we found, and that really soured a lot of people on, LRTs in Scarborough and building these sort of large-scale construction transit projects above ground. So I think we would have to really take those lessons learned and apply them to the Scarborough subway and eventually to the Eglinton East LRT. So I would say before any major construction projects are started, we really have to make sure the community is involved. And not just involved in terms of there's an advisory committee and, we get to meet once a month and let Metrolinx or whatever organization know what's going on, but that the community is actively involved in the decision-making process from the beginning. So just one quick example, the TTC, in order to compensate for the fact that the Eglinton East LRT will not be built in the near future, decided to create an express bus lane along Eglinton East from Kennedy up to University of Toronto Scarborough. Great idea. The plan was a success from the point of view that it has cut commute times. Unfortunately, it did that by cutting local bus stops without consulting the community first. So a lot of people, especially elderly people, people with disabilities, children, where it might now take faster to get from Kennedy to University of Toronto Scarborough, it takes longer to get to the actual bus stop. So you're actually negating a lot of the progress that you made because you didn't consult the community first. And we really need to take those lessons and really build them into the policies. So, going forward, what I'd really like to see for the Scarborough subway and for the Eglinton East is a strong community benefits agreement. An agreement that stipulates that a certain percentage of the jobs created have to come from residents living in Scarborough, particularly in our priority neighborhoods, such as Malvern, Steeles Lamoureux, Milliken, Agincourt, really areas that are dealing with a lot of hidden poverty and unemployment. And that's one of the things about poverty in Scarborough. It's very hidden. You don't see people necessarily begging on the streets, but there are a lot of illegal rooming houses. There are a lot of people in unstable housing situations that really doesn't get captured by a lot of the local decision makers. The second thing is, as a director of the Scarborough Business Association, I heard time and time again how, businesses were basically devastated, not just by the pandemic itself, but by the government's response to it, i.e. they let Walmart stay open, but they were forced to close. They let Canadian Tire stay open, but they were forced to close. Same thing. And a lot of these businesses took on so much debt, and they're basically hanging on by a thread. And it's really incumbent upon policymakers that when these projects are built, that a certain percentage of the revenue are given to these local businesses, because this means steady local revenue for however long the project is being built. And the good thing about local businesses is not just that they're local, is that they tend to hire local as well. So if you're a Scarborough-based company, generally a large percentage of your employees are going to come from Scarborough. So I'd say that. And then the third thing really is making sure that we are reforming the affordable housing process in Toronto. One of the highlights, I guess, of my community activism work has been really helping Housing Now to reform the process by which it engages communities about affordable housing projects. So before, when there was affordable housing project, what they would do is they would take a bunch of flyers and give them and drop them off in the mailboxes of the local homeowners. So within a 200-meter radius. And then predictably, obviously, what would happen is that you would get a bunch of angry homeowners that would show up to a meeting saying they've never heard of this, they don't want this, this is going to block their view, create shadows, block sunlight, etc. And that's why Toronto has really struggled. A big reason why Toronto's really struggled to get these projects off the ground is that there's always so much local opposition at these meetings. And it took one of these meetings where I went to, and I just started really questioning them, who are you engaging in these conversations? Are you reaching out to the communities that are the organizations that are trying to get people housed in Scarborough? Are you reaching out to people on the TTC? Are you reaching out to people in the libraries and the rec centers? Or are you just reaching out to people that are living in homes who, by definition, generally won't need affordable housing because they already have housing? And, really, to the city's credit, they really reformed their process to make sure that there's that wider, more reflective voice of the community that's heard at these meetings and that's invited to these meetings. So I'm excited. I'm optimistic that, between the lessons learned in the Eglinton Crosstown and the reforms that the city has built into the affordable housing process, that we're actually going to get good transit built that creates jobs, creates opportunities for local businesses, and that will, once those projects are built, will allow us to open up that land for affordable housing development. And that because we're now inviting a wider swath of the community to participate, we're actually going to get a more reflective decision because we've heard from more people. So that I'm optimistic about the future of Scarborough. I always am, but that's just my take.
That's so great to hear. Some of that important groundwork that's needed to be done to really, make sure that, voices within the community are involved as part of these important decision making. And, like you said, lots of transit, but also lots of housing opportunities to be built around this transit. And, the key thing is, how do you do it right, and how do you make sure that all voices in the community are there, and that they're really helping to shape what that affordable housing development looks like, which is really important. Ahmed, I'll turn it over to you. I know you dropped off there quickly a little bit, but I was hoping if you can share for yourself and in your community, what is one thing that you hope for the future? I know Mount Dennis, York Southwest, and as the LRT completes, lots of development coming to your neighborhood. And so for you in your community, what is maybe one or two things that you would say is like important priority for you, moving forward or looking forward?
Sorry about that, guys. Technology is a double-edged sword. One of the more pressing things that I would love to see get accomplished is, obviously, with the help of the Toronto Community Benefits, to have legislation or policy written down where these companies have to stick to and not just promise, where where a specific percentage is not only promised to the community, but they have a mechanism where they could get pleased that these numbers that they actually promised that are being offered to the community. And basically just more in writing. So most of these corporations, they could say one thing and then turn around in a couple of months and say, oh, well, it's not feasible, or this happened, that happened. But what I want to see in the future is like a model where they have CPAs at the core of every project in the community. That way, the community can actually benefit from it, and moving forward, nobody is left out. And the construction and infrastructure is a great way to lift people out of poverty, because most of the people that work on construction sites are not from our neighborhoods. Majority of them are not from the city of Toronto, but yet they have the highest paying jobs in the city. So it makes no sense why, while we have the projects going in our community, all that money flowing through, and we're not getting a dime out of it. So in the future, I would love to see, like John said earlier, and Jamal and Korea, legislation in the books where they can't go around it, or some type of rules and mechanism where they can't go around it, like they have in Newfoundland, I believe, and Nova Scotia now. So community benefits at the forefront of every project, and that can be achieved if the community gets involved. As I learned um, at the beginning of these projects, when they have in community consultations and like at the start of the projects, we need to have our voices heard at the start of the project. So later on, you're not just jumping in when everything the decisions already have been made. So start from the beginning and have some kind of a policy or legislation written down where they can't flip flop. Thank you, Kamsa.
Those are very great recommendations. Thank you, Ahmed, for sharing. John, for you, could you share a little bit about for you or your community, one or two priorities that you have going forward? I know Finch West LRT is kind of midway through, maybe a little bit further. But yeah, I would love to hear more about for you and your community.
Sorry, go over that again.
Just in terms of yourself or your community, like looking forward into the future, I know you said that transit will be completed soon, and so I guess for are there any priorities for you or your family or for those in your community that you want to see? Like, what do you hope the future of your Jane and Finch community to look like? What would what were the type of things you would want to see in your community?
Oh, all right. Thanks a lot. As a member of this community, of course, what I'm looking forward to is there's been some some level of involvement uh, to some extent, like having young people from the community being employed by the the construction companies building the project. But then at the end of the project, that should not be the end of building the community through their own project. The transit's gonna need operators. The transit's gonna need maintenance guys. The transit's going to need inspectors. There's going to be like so much job opportunities that are coming up once the project is done. Uh, I'm hoping there can be, say, a drive in the community to say, hey, the transit is coming to an end, and we have this opportunities coming up. Go to this link, make your application there, and all that. Say maybe having flyers distributed in the community, and guys are able to get the information firsthand. Sometimes what happens is probably the job adverts would be made on the TTC websites, and maybe just a few people who can access that or who have that knowledge can actually get to know of those opportunities. But then if we can translate that into active communication in the neighborhood with the knowledge that once we share this with them, then there's a young man, there's a young lady somewhere who's going to know about this, and they may actually be interested in apply for it. Then that's going to increase the community's contribution to the project after it's completed. The build is completed, and sort of the returns from the project are going to start building the very community where the project is. That would be my very simple hope for the near future.
That is a great reminder, and thank you for sharing that. That's always the long-term opportunities that come out of these projects. Like you mentioned, the maintenance, the operations, all of those are also going to be long-term jobs in the community. And how do we make sure that local residents within those communities get access to those good jobs, like TTC is a good unionized career. And so I think that's a definitely, and I hope you're going to be involved in supporting with some of that advocacy, and making sure that your neighbors and people in your community are involved in raising awareness about that, because yeah, like you mentioned, those are good long-term opportunities and careers that are available within the neighborhood. Okay, awesome. I know we're going to take questions soon, and so if anyone has questions, feel free to use the chat box and to ask your question. Before we do that, though, I know, Karia, we have you last year for the final question. So for you and your community, what do you hope for the future? What are the priorities for you or your family? And I know Lawrence Heights is currently, starting phases 2 soon. I know the planning is underway by the city already, and so maybe share like one or two things that, you know, what are the most important things to you or your community that you want to see the future Lawrence Heights community look like?
So I think for us, what number one has always been a community hub space where it's for us to have, where which we don't have, and through the different level of governments, that conversations has always been there. But right now that we are in Revite, we haven't seen any movement on that or any steps taking to that. So hopefully in the next phase, that would be our number one thing, is like a community hub space. Second, I would say is like job opportunities for the community. When I say job opportunities, having more job, it's not just in the trades, but also helping residents who have small businesses have access to storefront in our community, to have those small businesses within our community. What else? I would say home ownership. Those are, I think, our biggest main three um, areas that we want to see our community, because we don't want to be all about low income, low income, right? We also want to show that we can be sustainable. We can make it, as long as we're given the opportunity, we can come off of that. But without given an opportunity, how can we do that, right? So those, I think, are our biggest thing. We do have a lot of residents who have talent, who have passion, who want to have those opportunities, but they're not being given to us, or even if they are, it's not realistic, right? So the other thing is, it has to be realistic, right? Like, even if someone wants to have their own business, you can't tell us they need to have a certain amount of down payment, which is maybe they can at the moment, or have this and that and all these criterias, but you're not giving residents an opportunity to even start something, right? So I think those are my biggest three main areas, I think, would for the future.
Oh wow, that was so powerful, and I think what a great way to end the questions for the panel. So thank you, Claria, thank you, Jamal, Ahmed, and John. I wonder if there's any questions that have come in that we can ask our panelists. So we have a question here from Wesley, and so the question is: are there any solutions to the community opposition? And so I'm guessing that's in relation to some of the different housing or affordable housing developments that are happening. I think that may have been referring to. Anyone want to take on that question, or maybe share um, how you're involved in fighting some of the opposition to, you know, development in your community? It's kind of a tough one. Jamal?
So I'll do my best. So I think what Kiera said was so important, that, you know, when we talk about affordable housing, it's not just, you know, low income housing. It's about home ownership. It's about building wealth in communities, making sure that you can pass wealth on to the next generation of your family. And it's really important to get that message across, that when we talk about affordable housing, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about low income housing, we're talking about rental housing, but we're also talking about affordable home ownership. And I think that really matters. And it really helps change the nature of the conversation. I also think, you know, going back to what I was saying, making sure that there's a wider reflection of the community at these meetings where a lot of the decision making is done, or a lot of the feedback is received, is so important. Because if you've ever gone to one of these Housing Now meetings, you'll see the same people over and over and over and over and over again. It is people that own homes that don't really understand the project. They aren't necessarily opposed to affordable housing per se. They might be opposed to it next to their house. But what they're really what the real issue is, a lot of the times, is there are just not other voices that are heard at these, you know, community meetings. There's just the same people over and over and over again. And I know that, you know, it's often hard for people in need of housing to attend these meetings for a bunch of reasons. They might not have internet connection. They might not know when the meeting is happening. They might not feel confident or empowered to speak up at these meetings. but I cannot emphasize just how important it is to show up, to speak, that your voice matters, that what you're saying is important, and that if you don't show up, nobody else is going to show up for us. So it's important that you get involved, and that you make sure that you make a point of speaking up at these meetings, and making sure that that experience, those voices are heard at the meetings. Because once people generally see that there are other people on these calls that are actually in need of housing, and that want the housing, the conversation generally tends to become a lot more respectful. It's just when there's just opposition after opposition after opposition, people become a lot more emboldened to say things that they wouldn't otherwise say.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for responding, and I think that's a really excellent approach. We have another question from Meg, who asks, "What is the attitude from developers to CBAs in Toronto? To me, it only makes sense to have community support and sustainability in their projects." Thoughts? Anyone want to take that? Just from Ahmed?
Yeah, you gotta push them. They're not very receptive of the idea. They like the idea, but they don't want to do the work to get to that point. They need a push. If they were receptive of the idea of having CPAs in all the projects, we would not be having these type of conversations right now. So they know the need for it, but they're not gonna mention it because it complicates their bottom line at the end of the day. So you need an advocacy group or somebody to put the to put them to the test. That way they come forward or they're receptive to the idea of CPAs. They're not just gonna like Jamal said, you need to have some type of advocacy, and you need to get at these people. Otherwise, they're not just gonna pick it up from the table, and you're not at their meetings, so nobody's there in their meeting advocating for CPAs. So you do need to push them to the idea of accepting CPAs. They know the need for it, but they're not just gonna magically say, "Hey guys, let's be all inclusive." Somebody needs to push them to the idea.
And another thing on that also, just to add, make sure when you're attending these meetings or you're pushing developers for certain decision making, that you're not alone, right? It's not just you, or it's just not me making those decisions and talking for community. Developers and anyone who have in such power need to see people there, that you guys are there together as a group, as a unity, right? So if I'm there talking for my community, but nobody's there to support me and say, hey, we back her up or we back him up, right? Nothing is going to get done. They're just going to listen to you, of course, but that's all they're going to do. But the more people you have, every time you have meetings, have new members coming into those meetings, then eventually they'll make those changes, right? But without that, honestly, it's all about numbers for them to see that these are the people in the community. This is the change that they want for their community, right? So I think that's also important.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Power in numbers. That's always, the key, and development is all about power, right? The developers have all the money, they have all the resources. And so as community, like, coming together, I think that shows that the community also has power, in, like you said, in unity. So thank you so much for sharing. I don't know if we have any additional questions. Any final comments? Anyone want to make any final comments? I think it's been a great discussion today. I really appreciate you all being here to share more about your experiences, and also for those attending to also hear more about what's happening in different neighborhoods, and how community benefit agreements can really, ensure that these transformational projects and investments into communities actually benefit those local communities and residents that are living in these areas. John?
Yeah, I just love to give some final comments in regards to my own experience, and to somehow bring in how TCBN, to be specific, comes in. I got to know TCBN through a friend when the project to just track the growth of young guys who had just gotten into construction was being launched. So some of the challenges the young people from the communities where I come from are experiencing is when you are jobless, you don't have something to depend on, then you get a job, say through the way I got a job into Local 27, you're a carpenter, you start growing. That is apprenticeship. So along the way, you are required to stop work and go back to school for 3 periods of 8 weeks each. So if you had started working, you already earning, and then you have recurrent expenditures for your family, for yourself and family, and then you're required to stop work and go back to school. Most of the people from my community experience these challenges to some levels, impeding them to go back to school. Because if you are getting $20 an hour and then you're supposed to go back to school, and maybe after the 8 weeks of schooling you can get $25 an hour, most of us may choose to stay on $20 an hour because you cannot afford to stay off work. Whereas you would have been able to go to school and come back with a better pay. You're better off staying on your current pay and not get the raise because you cannot afford to be off work. And so TCBN has come in so greatly in terms of supporting such young talents and making sure those transitions between one level of apprenticeship to the next level is not as harsh. There are supports that are coming in to young people, to the people in the trades. At the moment, to such levels as getting, say, union registration membership, the monies you need to pay for the schooling, tools that somebody may need, groceries during that period of schooling. And so such things are really helpful to such people who have to break off work, go to school and come back without having to greatly negatively affect them to the in terms of how they support their families. And so my wish is that TCBN, they get more resources for such. And other than that, we can get like more organizations that are geared towards helping the people who are getting into the trades from the very communities where these projects are, not to slacken along the way, not to give up. We have had such things as really work ethic trainings with TCBN. Some of us are coming from environments where no one is training you to arrive on time. No one is training you. Sorry, guys, just a moment. No one is training you that you need to respect another person. You're probably coming from a family where you've not been given instructions by anyone. You've literally been trying to figure out your own life. So there are some things, some tricks that people, us young people getting into the trades, need to be taught. And so TCBN has come in really handy. And the wish and prayer is that there could be more organizations or more expansion within TCBN for more people to receive such assistance. To make sure that they don't just get into this, they don't just use these job opportunities, but they can sustain themselves within the opportunities that are available.
Very well said, John. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's really helpful advice. That we all can take back, and like you've mentioned, like really helping to grow the network. And so for those of you who are in attendance, if you're part of a community group or an organization, or even just trying to like learn more about how to get involved in your community around development, definitely connect with TCBN. Our website's communitybenefits.ca. And you can register to get connected if you know people in your community that are looking for, getting on the pathway to careers in the construction trades, or businesses that are looking to get access to procurement opportunities. Feel free to also connect to the TCBN through our website, and we would be happy to sort of see how you can get more involved with the network that's constantly growing across the city. Final plug for today. there is going to be a Jane's Walk happening at 3 p.m. In the Lawrence Heights community. It's going to be starting at 3 p.m. At the Lawrence Heights Community Center, which is located at 5 Repland Road. And so we hope that you can join us for this discussion and walk within the community with two excellent resident leaders who will be there. I think it'll be an extension to the conversation that we've had here today as part of this panel. And I hope that we'll also encourage continued discussion and meeting new people that share some of the same passions of learning about the community, as well as seeing how residents can be more involved in taking ownership and really help to ensure that decisions that are made are really focused on the residents. And so yeah, we really hope that you can join us for that walk at 3 p.m. And so before we wrap up, I just want to say finally, thank you again to Jamal, Khairia, Ahmed, and John. I think it was an excellent panel. Some really, excellent thoughts, and just really great to hear, so much of the amazing work that you're doing within your community as leaders. And I really hope to connect with you and see how that amazing work continues to evolve over time. And so. Without further ado, I hope you have a great rest of the day. Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you so much. Have a good one too.
Yeah.